So here we are at the dashboard for the NCAP web form. I've signed in after registering, and now as a first time user I want to create a farm. So if you haven't created a farm in a previous year, you need to use this process. Or if you've acquired a farm or you're managing a new farm since the last submission, or you're completing submissions for a new client farms, you also need to use this process. If you're adding a new year's records to an existing NCAP web form farm, one you created in a previous year, then skip this step and go to the start or continuous submission steps. Some background. For synthetic nitrogen records to belong to a piece of land, that is the place where the fertiliser has been spread, you need to create a farm. So you start by clicking the Create a Farm button on the dashboard. Here we go, Create New Farm. And a new screen appears, which has a range of fill-in fields. Wherever there's a red asterisk, like this one, this means that the information is required for compliance purposes. It's to comply with the regulations. So you fill in the data as indicated. Further down you'll see that some of these fields have a small I button which gives you more information about what the data is if you click on it. There's also the Help Centre that we saw on the front page where you can click on that and get even more detail than's available in these I buttons. So here's an example. If you have more than one dairy supply number, just enter the primary number. Here's some information about a link to go to. You can copy and paste that into another web browser and go and find your New Zealand business number. One important piece of information, if you have a fertiliser related consent or a permitted activity permit, you can add the ID of that consent or permit here in this existing fertiliser related resource consent numbers. Different councils around New Zealand have different ways of managing consents and permits for fertiliser management. It's not compulsory information, but it can assist with compliance if you've got a fertiliser management plan in place. Right, we'll skip up to the top of the form and enter in some details. So here at the top of the new farm information, you can put in a contact name, contact phone number. I've just used a string of numbers here, and a contact email address. Now that doesn't have to be the same email address as the email address you used to register. This information is made available to councils, so if you're a farm advisor filling out forms on behalf of a farm, then you could put the email address for that farm in rather than your own email address. We'll scroll on down. One thing to note, if you don't have a New Zealand business number, and some trusts don't, you can just enter 4 zeros in this space. You need to put in your dairy supply company name. I'm going to use false information. I don't want anybody to think that I am in fact a dairy farmer. So we will call this Milky Boy. I'm not making fun of anything or any products. And my dairy supply number. So this is all free-form text. You can enter whatever information. That will be, again, made available to councils so that if they need to come and do an inspection or check-up on your records, they can verify that information. Down through here, I don't have any permits on my farm that I'm demonstrating here from. I'll put in my total number of hectares of the farm, and of that, how much of that is actually being used to farm or graze or provide crops for my milking herd. So in fact I've got a home paddock, I've got the house, I've got some areas that are cordoned off with riparian rights so that I have clean water going through the stream on my paddock. So in fact on my farm I have only got 140 hectares of effective land being used. This last step is the bit where you declare that for the previous season, which was from 1 July to 30th of June, your average synthetic nitrogen application for the farm is below the 190 kilograms per hectare on your grazed pasture. So you have a choice of a yes or a no. I'm clicking yes. I'm saying that my synthetic nitrogen fertiliser application is under control and I haven't exceeded the cap. A no declaration means that the cap has been exceeded, and you should work with your council, your advisors, or your fertiliser company to put some plans in place to reduce the amount of synthetic nitrogen being applied on farm. There's a piece of information here around data permission, which to be able to proceed through this whole process of supplying your records through the NCAP web form, you need to say yes, because this is a matter of compliance with the regulations. If you don't click yes, you're not able to save and continue this process. You can find out where the data goes and how it's used by clicking on this information bar here. So I will click yes, at which point you'll see there's been a change. The save and continue button has turned dark green, meaning you can now click that. Once you click save and continue, the tool will automatically move you on to the farm fertiliser purchases page. One thing to note is that the final record of success of a submission will be sent to the login email address. So if the farm contact email is different, this one that we put in at the top here, if that is different to the one that was used to log into this web form, the final record of success of the whole of your data submission gets sent to that login email address. So if it is different, whoever receives that final submission summary and can download and print that can be forwarded on to whoever needs to receive that information. Right, so you've created a new farm. Next up is creating some fertiliser purchase information. Here we go.